Listen, I don't even have a personal relationship with everybody here, but I really appreciate you jumping on. I'm looking at Jurgen. Thanks for joining. You know, Kristen, John. Looks like Christian Schmoka's on as well. Steve, thank you. And I actually expect maybe a couple others to maybe join on. Aha, there's Kirk. Um, Yep, Kirk, good morning. I was actually just kind of teeing things up. Thanks for jumping on, Kirk. Um, for everyone, I sent out an email asking if folks would be willing to join this workshop, and I won't restate, my commentary ahead of time, except to say that I was introduced to this product 3 years ago. And after it took me, I think a tough sell, I think Michael would say, meaning I was skeptical and I kept on going back with questions, but ultimately I embraced LeanMail and it became a game changer for me in terms of efficiency, effectiveness, and my responsiveness to the community. I would just say Michael, has created this business, I believe, about 18 years ago. He has a vast level of experience in coaching, in effective communication. I mean, one tidbit of Michael's experience is he's a former symphony conductor, and it's interesting to see how different skill sets can feed into a passion that we have professionally. But Michael, thanks for offering this workshop for our folks, and I'm hoping that as an outcome of this exposure, that folks might want to maybe take a little bit more interest for the right reasons, and that is if it can help to create again more responsiveness in your schedule, less frustration, less headaches, like it did me, then I think most people would say that's maybe a reason to take a closer look. Michael, thank you again.
Thank you, Dan. Always very nice with your introductions, and I love when you said that you were a tough sell. Actually, I think most people are tough sells, and I understand that. I'm going to show you something today that's innovative, meaning that it's not just some tips and tricks, and you'll note on my screen, and I hope everybody sees my screen right now, that I'm not going to be giving you some tips and tricks, because I think tips and tricks are great. I'm learning new things all the time through the internet and so on. They don't bring you to the level that I want to bring you to. And so I totally understand skepticism. If you look at the testimonials on our homepage, every other one is, well, I didn't believe this is going to really help me, or I was already amazing at Outlooks. What could this guy teach me? And then I found out this. So that's a very typical response for people. So, and it's a healthy response because it means you're thinking. So the LeanMail add-in and the method was developed after having studied Lean, of course, and exhaustively researching every possible solution using Outlook without any external modifications like you've all done. And so I really felt that I needed to reconfigure Outlook, and I tinkered until I really believed that there was no viable solution. So what did I do? I left Outlook and I tried other products. And then I realized, well, everything has this, Gmail has the same problem. There was a product called ACT at the time, ACT with an exclamation mark. They're gone. But everybody was trying to help people, and yet nobody was finding a solution. So I realized that, and Dan was mentioning that I was a musician. I was a symphony orchestra conductor before. So imagine this symphony orchestra conductor who says, okay, I'm going to create some software. And you're probably laughing, like, who does this guy think he is? Well, basically, if you understand something about Lean, I'll get to that in a moment, you understand that it's got to be darn simple. Otherwise, people are not going to use it. And I'm going to talk about the 2 steps that we take, and I'm going to use the number 2 a lot, especially in prioritization as well, because we use Pareto principle. But I realized that it had to be simple, and it had to work for anybody. That could be a musician or an executive in a technical company. So how was I going to do this? Well, I went through 6 developers. until I found the right person that could help with this. And 18 years later, if we fast forward, we're in hundreds of companies around the world, and it's working. And before I get started here, I just want you to know that this is not going to be your typical webinar where you sit back and do your email, because I need your full attention for one reason, and that is that I'm going to kind of force you to make a decision at the end of this presentation and demo to decide, yeah, I want to try this, Michael, or no, thank you, Michael, it looked good, but I don't think you convinced me. I'm fine either way, but I don't want you leaving here today with more stuff on your plate. As a productivity expert and executive coach, that's the worst thing that I could do to you today, is put more on top. So I'm going to say, okay, guys, this is it. Guys and gals, excuse me. We're going to make a decision today based upon the information you have. Luckily, if you decide that you do want to try LeanMail, there will be no cost unless you like it. So you'll go through a first training, and then it's after the first training that you will decide if this is something you want to budget for. So please don't wait until the end to ask any questions. Fire away, interrupt. We love that here. Okay. Now, I am going to be introducing you to a new methodology, and that's based on lean thinking. And if you're not familiar with lean, don't worry, because it's not at all a prerequisite. As a matter of fact, we don't use any lean terminology. But you need to know that lean focuses on doing the most you can with the least amount of effort. And for our purposes today, we're going to keep in mind 3 tenets of lean. And they are, first of all, identify value, which in email management means that some mails are more significant than others, right? Have more at stake. They can provide more for the company. They can give you more profitability, whatever that is. Think for a moment right now how you ensure that the most valuable mails get first priority. How do you set that up physically in your inbox? What do you do physically to make sure that the most important mails are in that section in your inbox that enables you to work with them first? Okay. What about the mails that aren't so important but need to get done? Where do you put those as opposed to the other ones? Now, what's going in my head right now is, because your inbox is sorted by when they arrived, and your inbox stays sorted that way. So you're going to have to do some, I don't know what you're doing, but you're doing some older things, or somehow you're trying to work that out, or what most people do, probably 95%. They're trying to remember things in their head. Okay. And we all know where that goes. The second thing is to remove waste. The second tenet is to remove waste. Whether you're a beginner or like an Outlook Olympian, you can easily remove 20 to 60% of the unnecessary activities in your email processing. So I don't care how good you are in Outlook, you will be able to remove at least 20 to 60% of the things that you are doing today. And I'm not just talking about deleting mails. Think of all the wasted time and energy you spend scanning your inbox for things to do, or moving them to tasks, or all of that is all wasted time. And why would you do that? Could it be that you're missing some functionality? That's my guess. And then thirdly and finally, continuous improvement. You may have heard the word Kaizen before. And who really feels that they're so much better in managing email than they were last year or last month? It's probably been about the same for years and years and years and years. You're trying to do your best. And I doubt there is anyone here that hasn't been striving for years to improve their performance in Outlook. So why haven't you had any real major breakthroughs? There must be a better way. Well, first, no, it's not you. You certainly wouldn't attend this nerdy workshop regarding email management unless you had a keen interest in improving, which means that you've probably already tried any number of ways to improve how you manage your inbox. So there needs to be a realization that no one has cracked this nut. Everyone struggles with email. And I promise you, if there was somebody who had figured all this out, some magic combination or some way of dealing with email in a better way, they would have told us by now. Someone of those 400 million Outlook users would have figured it out and attracted everybody to their site, and everybody would follow their method. But that's not going on because there is no genie in a bottle, right? Unless you think there's some huge conspiracy going on and the world really is round. So what's going on? Why is that happening? Well, let's take a look at the research and the evidence from thousands of customers of ours that show that there is a lack of functionality that is hindering your efficiency. And to illustrate this, I'm going to compare the evolution of automobile technology with that of Outlook to show you just how outdated our current approach to email has become. So let's take a look at this Mercedes from 2004. It has the newest technology of its time. You will notice the cassette deck, right? The best cassette deck. You will notice the GPS there. Okay, it's small, right? It's not the nice dashboard ones we have now. But at that time, that was amazing. There were very few cars that had built-in GPS. So state of the art, 2004. Now let's jump ahead to 2024 and take a look at this. Now we're talking automatic braking, lane assist, blah, 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 but full autonomy. That means hands off the steering wheel, and you can drive, in Germany anyway, you can't do this yet in the States, but in Germany, you can actually drive without touching the steering wheel now. Just wait another 5 years and it's all over the place, right? Well, they've been saying that for a number of years. So look at the difference between the technology of 2004 and 2024. It's insane. Now let's take a look at Outlook. So in 2024, because I'm gonna compare the same years, we had the folders on the left, we had the emails in the center, and then we had a reading pane on the right-hand side. Then in 2024, we had, well, it's basically the same, isn't it? What has changed? A few slight things have changed, but don't even think that rules were created in between. Rules were available in 2004 as well. So in terms of technology, not much has changed. And that's where I realized we need to put something extra in here to help us. Now, you've been doing things already, and I want to talk about those things. But first, and I know not everybody feels like they're really struggling, but there must be times when volume is a problem, right? Especially when you get back from vacation, or you're not in charge of your priorities because they're like all over the place. You have a mail up here, a mail down here, and sometimes you miss a certain priority. And then planning. How do you plan today? Think about it physically. How do you do that? How do you make sure that this mail that has to go out on Tuesday but can't go out on Monday is done on Tuesday? And what about that mail that's coming up in 2 weeks that you need to send out? Are you going to remember that in 2 weeks? What are you doing to remember that? You're pulling it over someplace, you're putting it in your calendar, whatever that is. And then there's the time you're spending, loads and loads of it. Are you responsive? Are you making sure that you're hitting the mark with every single mail that's sent out? And you're probably wondering, every single mail? Do you think anybody can do that? Of course you can. What about search? Happy with the search engine in Outlook? Most people are not. And that all brings on so much stress, doesn't it? So you try system after system after system, and yet we always feel like we're on this hamster wheel, right? And so to combat this, we're using all kinds of workarounds. We're doing anything we can to try to make sense of Outlook. And since there's no manual on how to process email in the most efficient and effective way, which is kind of interesting when you think about it, most people invent their own systems. So I want to compare some of the most common workarounds very quickly. So probably everyone here knows this one. where you right click and you mark a mail as unread. So here you are marking the mail as unread, and then you're going to go to a different one, and oh, now you have to mark that one as unread because you looked at it, and then you have to go to a different one, and you have to mark, oh, then the first one has to be marked unread. This is how people are going, okay, I've sped that up a little bit, but that's the idea here. And then, oh, well, that's not going to work, so I'm going to make a special folder for things, and then, oops, I forgot about that folder. And what about right-clicking and going down the menu and marking things as to remember and set a date on it, and then you just snooze it after all of that work, snooze all of them at once. Of course, there are rules, and we use rules as well, but they are not making your work go faster or they don't provide any kind of effectiveness. It's only putting things in different places. So you decide, well, I'm going to open up these drafts to remember to get back to them. That's another common workaround. Then there is dragging an email to your task section by dragging it to the icon. And by the way, this is a good one to know about. You can drag an email to your task icon, drop it there, and it'll create a task for you, and you can use your task list that way. But it's a lot of work to do all of that, so I don't suggest it unless it's something that's going to take you about an hour, for you to complete that task. You can also drag to your calendar in the same way. But what happens when you forget it in your calendar because you got busy? It's forgotten, and that very important thing all of a sudden becomes the thing that you forgot. Then you give up on Outlook completely and go to Teams. Teams is a great tool, but imagine we just gave up on Outlook. We can't find a solution there. Or maybe you've decided you're going to make an Excel sheet of tasks or just handwritten notes. By the way, over 20% of Outlook users at some points take handwritten notes to remember to do their emails. So we're now we're not just leaving Outlook, we're leaving digital management. We're going back to analog. Or Post-it notes and put them around your screen. Probably some of you have some Post-it notes on your screen to remember stuff. So there's a reason why we're the clear leader in the domain of email management for Outlook, because we decided we're not going to try to do that anymore. We're going to give you tools. And I mentioned before that the 2 steps was a very important part of what we do, keeping it very simple. So the first step is to prioritize. And we call that prioritizing or triaging your inbox. So the first thing you do when you come into your inbox is you're going to decide to delete or archive a mail, or you're going to give it a high or normal priority. Notice that it's all binary here. It's 2 choices. So I delete it or archive it, or do I give it a high or normal priority? Our brains work really well when we have just 2 choices. When we have 3, things change. If I were to say to you, high, medium, and low, you'd get stuck with medium and low. Where's medium really? High is pretty easy, but then medium and low, we struggle with that. And we shouldn't. We should have very clear ideas about whether something's important or not, whether you need new tires or you don't need new tires, right? The second step of the 2 steps is to plan the mail. Now, I'm not going to ask you to plan a mail that you can deal with as soon as you get it. That doesn't make any sense. I'm only going to ask you to plan mails that don't take you more than 2 minutes to answer, using David Allen's 2-minute rule, if you're familiar with Getting Things Done by David Allen. Right? So you're going to, on every mail that you can't answer right away within 2 minutes, you're simply going to write a next action and a due date, which we call a when date. So there's the triage and then the control. Follow those 2 steps and you are bulletproof in this methodology. That's all you need to do. And we're talking about, the prioritization will take you less than a second in most cases. You read the subject line and you see who it's from and you know exactly what the priority is. And the planning is going to take you whatever time it takes to read the mail and analyze it, which you need to do anyway, but now we're doing it once instead of 5 and 6 times. And you're simply writing a next action, which will take you about 3 or 4 seconds, right? So that's your investment, is 5 seconds. And every time you re-look at it in an email, you're going to waste at least 15, right? Just at a minimum. So you can't lose by doing the work up front. but it's going to save you so much time besides that. And you're going to stop with your watching TV in your inbox. And what I mean by that is so many people, not you, of course, but so many other people open up their inbox and look through it. And like it's 2 o'clock in the morning and looking for something good on TV to watch, right? When we were kids. So what we want to do is avoid all that. And instead of checking our email, we want to process our email. And this is what you're going to get set up to do. And as I said, LeanMail is process oriented. So there is no more checking your emails. In the future, you will process your emails. And the benefits it offers will bring you to a completely different level. Whether you consider yourself a beginner of Outlook or an expert Lean Six Sigma black belt sensei, right? I don't care where you're starting out. It could be your first day with Outlook. It could be that you feel like you're, an IT expert. And as a matter of fact, the more advanced you are in Outlook, the more you're going to get out of LeanMail because you'll be able to leverage all your skills and not be handicapped by the lack of Lean tools. Now, I'm going to need a volunteer for this next part, but before I do that, I want to stop here for a moment and field any questions. If anybody has a question, anything I've said so far, and if not, I would just love to get a volunteer. Who can volunteer for me? And not you, Dan. I want somebody different.
I'm happy to volunteer.
So
Perfect.
Thank you so much, Kirsten. What I want you to do is put these in order. Read, eat dinner, brush teeth, set alarm. How would you reorder these?
How would I reorder these? I would first eat dinner, then brush my teeth, then set an alarm, and then sleep. Yep.
Excellent. And once I set it up correctly for you, it was pretty intuitive, right? So yes. I'm going to ask you, we still have a couple minutes before you go, so I'm going to ask you to do the next one. And here now we're going to talk about email, and I'm just going to read through these. They're in the wrong order, and I'm going to ask you to reorder them, and I'll just read through them. Act upon high priority tasks due today. Get an overview and organize tasks by urgency and importance. So that's that triage. Act upon important tasks due in the future that you can't respond to today. And finally, act upon tasks due today that are not as important but urgent. What would you do first?
Probably for me, the second item. I typically get an overview and then organize.
Right. How can you possibly know what's important and urgent without doing that, right?
Correct.
And what's the second thing you would do?
Number one would be done.
Do the high priority tasks that are due today.
And then number 4 and then number 3. Right.
You got it. You got it.
This was easier than your first one.
Great. And Kirsten, thank you. I realize you might have to be going in just a second, so I'll excuse you. But thank you so much for helping me out and getting the perfect score. So the truth is that I didn't teach Kirsten to do this. She got it by herself, just as you all would. And so it begs the question, if this makes a lot of sense, why aren't you doing it? Why aren't you getting an overview and organizing your tasks by urgency and importance? And then act upon the high priority tasks that are due today. Why aren't we doing this? I'm going to show you why we're not doing this. Again, it's not your fault. Look at this. This is what you're saddled with. This is what you're using. This is what everybody in the world has in front of them, and we're supposed to, how are you supposed to organize this? Right? Even if you decided, well, I'm going to put a folder for today, still wouldn't organize them by priority. Or I'm gonna have a folder that's high priority and a folder that's normal priority, and still you wouldn't be able to organize the urgency. So you're really stuck. And the truth is, if you think about it, that $1 million contract or €1 million contract could be at the bottom of your list and even out of sight, whereas your new Facebook friend is at the top of your list. That just doesn't make any sense to anybody. So let's take a look back, 40 years ago, 40 years ago. God, I'm getting old. And remember when we had analog mail? Actually, we did this with analog mail. We had these different piles, right? We'd have a junk pile, we'd have a to-file pile, and then we have these two piles of to-do, and then the really important and urgent stuff. So what happened to that? Why don't we do that anymore? Was that not a good idea? Yes, it was a great idea. But somehow Outlook didn't follow along as the email increased, probably because it's so hard to change users' habits. And so that didn't happen. And so we're not able to work according to Pareto. And you'll notice that when we are prioritizing in LeanMail, we are working according to the Pareto principle, or the 80-20 rule. And I'm sure many of you have heard of this rule. And it makes a lot of sense because 20% of what you do accounts for 80% of your outcomes. I don't think anybody's going to argue about that. 80% of your web traffic comes from 20% of your web pages. 80% of your delays come from 20% of your tasks, and 80% of your sales come from 20% of your customers. Now, it's not exact, but it's pretty darn close. You can analyze a lot of things. I mean, you're wearing 20% of your socks 80% of the time. You can apply this to anything, right? And you should apply it to your inbox. Because 20% of what you do is vital, whereas 80%, I'll bet you anything, if you deleted 80%, if they're the right 80% of your inbox, nothing would happen, right? But that 20% that I'm really focused on, those are the things that we get these like mini heart attacks if we don't answer that mail. Oh, I should have done this 2 weeks ago. You all know that experience, right? It doesn't have to be that way. So how much more effective could you be if your inbox looked more like this, where you had the high priority on top, the normal priority, so we're having the 20% on top, 80% below that, and then nothing else in your inbox. Nothing nothing that should have been deleted, nothing that should have been archived, put away, right? And wouldn't you want to ensure that what's important doesn't travel down into that deep, dark hole? Of course. So you'd want to hold that in place. New mails would arrive, but it wouldn't disturb your order of things. Instead, they'd come into a different part of your inbox that you can't see right now because of our filtering system, right? But if you wanted to see them, you just click on it. And now you see, okay, these are the new mails that have come in. But it's not going to you're not going to go there if you're working on the important things, right? Because what are the chances that one of these mails is more important than the mails that you assigned a high importance to? Now, if you feel like, well, Michael, you don't understand, I'm constantly getting really important and urgent things. Well, then check your prioritized view and go through these mails, making sure that they are prioritized or deleted, right, or archived. Okay. Something's wrong with my little clicker here. There we go. So again, we've already taken care of the quick to answer emails. Those are already done. We're not talking about those. We're talking about the ones that you need to be working on in the future. There's no waste in this inbox. Everything is in order of importance. And all mails have been previewed. People ask me, well, Michael, where's the AI in this? And I say, look, you simply have to know what's going on. So if we got AI to do this, which might be possible in the future, you'd be looking at these high priority mails, but you'd be wondering, well, what do I do? Who's it for? Right? So that's not really going to help you unless somebody replaces you like AI. So the bottom line is that it's the same cost per click. Right? What's the difference between advancing to the next email by clicking on the following email or clicking on a button? There's no physical difference there. But there's a huge difference between the outcome of this. So if you look on the left-hand side, everything's still sorted by when you got it. On the right-hand side, you can see your priorities. So it's very different. Now you're working according to your priorities and urgencies. Well, actually, you're not working according to your urgencies, only your priorities. So let's talk about it. Let's talk about urgencies when things are due, right? That's what we're talking about. What goes on in your head when you're going through your emails? You're thinking, well, this is not so important. It can wait until Friday. Oh, this is really important. So Oh, but I can't do it until next week. So what do I do with it now? I just want to have this information in front of me for the meeting tomorrow. I hope I don't get too many mails so it doesn't go too low in my inbox, right? Because then I'll forget about it. Right, so every email not only has priority, but it also has urgency. So, and some are really important, or sorry, some are very urgent, like they're due today. That means they're really urgent. And it'd be nice if we had, just the inbox that I showed you before. But the truth is, this is 200 mails. This is an inbox with 200 mails. So you get an idea of, and probably your inboxes have hundreds, if not thousands, of mails. That's my experience. And if I just point to the really, really important ones, they all have different due dates. And if I mess that up even further, here's your reality. It's not just very important mails that you need to track, but everything requiring action. So how do you efficiently do that using the workarounds that you have today? And this is why projects are delayed, why customers don't understand why things take so long, and why deals that you spent months on are lost. You have to have a photographic memory to do any kind of work in this. And in reality, it's overwhelming, and what you're really thinking is, just show me what I need to do today. Why doesn't Outlook do that? Why can't I configure it so I press a button and it tells me what I need to do? So that's what we did. We got a little real estate in the top ribbon of Outlook. We put a little button there called Today, and then we clicked it. And when we clicked on that button, all we saw were the mails that are due today. Everything else fades into the background. And we thought, well, that's good, but I don't want to reread all that stuff again. So let's have a little column where I can put all the next actions that I figured out the first time I read the mail, so I don't have to do that over and over and over again. And let's make sure that I can group those mails. You see EB in front of a lot of those mails by person or by meeting or whatever it is that I want to group them by, so that not only do I see my mails that are due today, I see them in order of importance, and I can see exactly the groupings that I want all in one go. Right. So now we've talked about LeanMail Prioritize, and we've talked about LeanMail Plan. That's the second module. And you're starting to get an understanding that, oh, there are modules here, so I don't have to buy the whole LeanMail suite or everything that LeanMail sells, because we have 5 modules. If you want, you can just buy 1 or 2 or 3 or whatever, and over 90% will get 3. I haven't mentioned the archiving module, but that's actually the favorite one, so I'm not worried about you understanding that one. That'll be very clear when you get to learn about that. So here is an overview of what this has to offer, what LeanMail has to offer for 2 of the modules. And I'm going to cut away now, and I'm going to show you how it works in real life, now that you have a basic understanding of this. So I'm going to jump to my inbox. And of course, these are not my emails. I've grabbed them from my deleted items and spam, so that we'd have something to work with. But you can see this looks like a typical inbox. And so I'm going to turn this into something usable, something efficient and effective. But basically, this is right now sorted by received, just like your inbox is. Some of them are not read. Some of them are read. Oh my goodness, what do we do now? So I'm going to take you to the prioritized view. And we're going to look at all the mails that have not yet been prioritized. And I'm simply going to look at the subject line and the person it's from. And if I have to, I'll look over here to the right-hand side to see if I'm correct in deciding what I want to decide in terms of, do I want to delete it using this button? Do I want to give it a normal priority, meaning just something I have to do? Give it a high priority, meaning it's something very important. Notice I'm not talking about urgency yet. That's the second step. Is it something personal, or do I need to archive it, which I'm not going to do today? So I'm just going to click between these buttons until all these mails are gone, looking at those things. And you'll see it goes pretty quickly. Obviously, in this demo, I don't really care, but I'm going at the rate that I probably would right now with these emails. And okay, so that's high priority. This is a normal. No, I'm going to delete this one. That's a newsletter. I don't need this one. Oh, this is a normal. This is delete, and another delete, and this is a normal. And okay, and the rest of these I don't really need. So I've just now prioritized my emails. What is the end result? That I've gotten rid of a lot of trash that I didn't need, and I now see my emails in priority order. Now, remember, I did no more clicking than you would do to get through your emails. I just clicked on buttons instead of clicking on the next mail and the next mail and the next mail. And that forced me to make decisions, right? I couldn't think, oh, well, I'm going to leave this one, because then I'd have to just go back and prioritize it again. So I'm making sure that it's kind of forcing me. Of course, you don't have to. You could leave it there. But you'll see that it doesn't really make a lot of sense. Now's the next part. Now I'm going to assume that none of these mails I can do in less than 2 minutes. So I'm going to give each one a next action. So this one, I'm going to say, Chris, could you please run the numbers on Ace Hardware? That's what I'm going to think. And it's Chris I have to talk to, so I'm going to put that first. And when does that due? Oh, I want that today. Oh, did you notice that I wrote today, but it turned it into the 12th, right? I could have written the 12th, right? I could have written, let's see, today's Thursday. I could have written Thurs. It would still think that. But I'm going to actually write today and keep moving. Okay, this next one is, what is this next one? I have a marketing meeting, and I don't know if I received the contract from Bill, so I need to talk to them. But I won't see Bill until tomorrow, so I'll put this for tomorrow. Okay. And then I'll go to the next one. And notice I'm constantly on my keyboard. I'm using my tab key to get between these different columns, and I'm able to write directly in Outlook. So, and this next one, that is, I have to go to the Capterra site to find out if Linda answered the request. And I'm going to do this, oh, let's say next Tuesday. I'll just next Tuesday, it'll understand that. Okay, great. And this is, the next one is, oh, I have the Valley Conference payment method. I don't know how to pay. And you know what? I'm going to make sure I do that before Christmas. So I'll say 2 days before Christmas. Sorry, there's misspelling there, but it doesn't matter. And there it is, the 23rd. Okay, and then finally, the last one, I'm going to say that this is, I need to speak to Richard about who's getting the lion's share of that deal. And I'll put this one for today as well. I'm done. And notice that it shifts now to my, oops, sorry, close that. It shifts automatically to this today view, right? So when I prioritize all my mails, it shifted to the plan view, set me up for that, and then it shifted to the today view. In Lean terms, we call that Kanban, but you don't need to know that, okay? So here we are, and notice, oh, I have a lot of high priority mails here. That's way too many. I actually think that the marketing meeting should not be a high priority. So I'm going to take these mails and I'm going to bring them down to normal priority just by dragging and dropping. So there isn't a, you don't have to write things and go through menus or anything like that. Everything is in Outlook. Everything is right here in front of you. Okay, so how is this looking now? I still have too many mails. So I think that this Valley Conference item can be brought down here as well. Now I'm feeling a lot better, because what this means to me is I'm going to take care of, these are the 3 most important things that I have to do today. Okay, and there's no way I'm going to leave the office without doing them. If these don't get done, that's okay, I'll move them. As a matter of fact, this one here, I'm going to move to tomorrow. Now I could easily change the date here, or I could say, well, I want to move it 1 day, or I can move it 3 days. That's just moved 3 days. And by the way, it skips weekends. So you're never going to worry that, oh, it landed on a Saturday and I missed it. That's never going to happen, right? We've thought about all those things because we've made all those mistakes in the past, right? So, ladies and gentlemen, this is what you can have. And you already know how to use it because I just showed you. I showed it to you, right? It's as simple as that. So let me go back to my slide. Are there any questions before I leave this view? Actually, there's one thing I didn't tell you. You might want to see all the mails that are in your inbox. So we have a special button for that. And you might say, well, this is too many mails for today. I'm not going to be able to get to them. So let me put the item for Neil down here. on the 17th. And anything else I want to change here? Oh, look at this. This I put on the 23rd, but really that should go with the other Valley mail, so I'll move that up here. And this one, oh, that could be moved down here. Now look at this. Now I'm set to go. The next time I have that Valley call, I will kill three birds with one stone. Right? Here are two mails that I need to speak with Dan about, and so on and so forth. Any questions?
What does the view look like for emails you don't put the little notes on and the prioritization on? So like you said, like this is a good example, but we're getting 150 emails per day. So there may be 70 of them that I don't even touch. Would they show down below this group of categories, or are they mixed in with them?
So remember, all your mails come into this view here, and I'll just remove a priority so you can see what happens there. So I removed the priority, so it says, hey, you've got a mail that hasn't been prioritized. This is where all your unread mails will come in first. Now, if you're getting 150 mails, I haven't shown this to you today. We have a special module for people who are receiving tons and tons of mail like me, and it goes through a first Pareto principle here, where it separates your essential mail from your non-essential mail. And you decide who is an essential sender, who is not an essential sender. Don't have time to get into that today, but very happy in a separate session to give you a run through of that. But I'll just show you my personal one here. And you can see these are all mails. For instance, these are all mails that I've received today and yesterday and the day before that didn't get into my inbox. These senders were not allowed in. Now I can change that by giving them a thumbs up. Right? I can send them to spam by giving a thumbs down, and it applies that to every time that sender sends me an email. Or if I'm here and I notice that, oh, well, this shouldn't even come into my inbox, then I can give it a thumb sideways to say that goes into inbox 480 next time. So I'm not going to get into more detail there, but I just want you to know we do have a solution when you're clobbered by mails continuously and you don't want to have to go through every single mail in your inbox in order to take care of it. Does that help?
I think it does. Even without that tool, it would just stay in the prioritized pile, and then as a new day comes on, the emails default into that prioritized pile, and I can prioritize the ones I want out of that new day.
Exactly.
The non-prioritized ones would just sit there the way they do today, essentially.
Yeah, except you wouldn't want any non-prioritized ones. You'd want to take a decision on each one. But the good news is you're taking a decision once. So you're not revisiting mails, and you don't have a clogged up inbox and kind of pecking through it and looking for the important things. That's not going to happen anymore because it's going to be empty. Right.
Got it. You answered my question. Thank you.
Great. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to come back to our little PowerPoint here, and just want to finish off by talking about numbers, because in Lean, metrics are super important. We go by metrics, the famous expression, bring data. So this is a snapshot of our homepage. You can go there now and you'll see slightly different figures maybe, because it's an aggregate of all the trainings that we do. We get surveys from our trainings and they tell us how we're doing, and we keep that in a live aggregation, and we take a screenshot of that every couple of weeks. This hasn't been updated in a while because I was in New York. But what our users are telling us are that they're spending 42% less time on email. They have 59% greater control over their inbox. 94% recommend LeanMail. And there are a lot more statistics, but this just gives you an idea of what they're saying. And if you should be interested, and I'm going to kind of push you to make a decision today. I'm not going to go around the room, of course, but I hope you will make a decision today on yes or no. Do you want to try this out? It would cost you 90 minutes of your time, but not cost you anything in your pocketbook unless you decided to go further after trying it, after really getting immersed in it. After that, there's another 90-minute training, and then there's a 60-minute training and coaching. And then, of course, we will get online with you one-to-one anytime you need help. That could be in 3 years, right? And often happens. You know, somebody goes on vacation. Oh, Michael, can you help me? Or Esther, or Andrea, can you help me? You know, get back into shape? And we're always eager and happy to do that. So there's a QR code here if you'd like to answer a very short survey to let us know how we're doing. Great. And so this is a good time to make any comments you'd like. You don't have to tell me right now if you want to try LeanMail or not, but it'd be great to get some feedback from you to understand if this makes sense to you, if it doesn't make sense to you, if there were parts of it that you didn't really understand. Maybe you're worried about the IT part of this. And let me tell you this, that's not a problem because we've been working with several people at Momentive for years. So IT has already said, okay, thumbs up to this, simply because it doesn't touch any data. You know, there's no chance for any kind of cybersecurity attacks because we don't touch any data, just manipulating Outlook a little bit. So any comments?
Just that I appreciate the thinking outside the box. I always thought that folder systems that I've seen used are just creating one mess. You're replacing one mess with another mess. This is addressing the root cause. So appreciate the different perspective.
Thank you very much, Kurt. Thank you. Anybody else want to share? Otherwise, we'll pack it up, and we'll be in contact with you through email. We'll send you that survey to find out if anybody is interested in taking a next step and how we can help further in your journey with email. Great. Well, thank you very much for joining. There was a question?
I know I was just saying thank you, but answer my question, which is regarding the IT anyway. So
Okay.
I'm clear. Thank you.
Great. Thank you.
I had to actually save the delete button on my keypad.
Oh, okay. Great.
Nice. Thanks for joining, everyone.